I was banned from my own anniversary party by my mother-in-law. She wanted to introduce my husband to his future wife. Little did she know, I had a surprise announcement that left her speechless. The cheap plastic cup trembled in my hand as I watched my mother-in-law's lips curl into that familiar condescending smirk. 7 years of marriage to her precious son, and I still couldn't shake the icy chill that slithered down my spine whenever she looked at me that way, like I was something she'd found stuck to the bottom of her designer shoe. My name is Eliza Mitchell, and I've spent 7 exhausting years being the family disappointment, the woman who dared marry into the prestigious Mitchell family without the proper education credentials or career achievements to match. Just a mere caregiver from a middle-class neighborhood working at Sunny Pines Assisted Living. I simply can't wait for next month's anniversary celebration, Vivian announced, swirling her red wine with practiced elegance in the crystal glass that probably cost more than my weekly salary. I have the most wonderful surprise planned for the country club event. The dining room of her sprawling suburban home fell uncomfortably silent. Even the gentle clink of sterling silver against fine china seemed to hold its breath in anticipation. I caught my husband Nathan's questioning glance from across the polished mahogany table, but he quickly looked away, suddenly fascinated by the pattern on his dinner plate. He always looked away when his mother started this routine. "Mother, we agreed no surprises this year," Nathan said, his voice carrying that slight tremor it always did when he attempted to stand up to her. His fingers nervously adjusted his designer glasses. "Eliza and I wanted something simple. We discussed this last month." Vivian's laugh tinkled like breaking glass. "Beautiful, but dangerous." "Oh, darling, nothing about our family gatherings is ever simple. You know that perfectly well." Her sharp eyes, the same shade of blue as Nathan's but lacking any warmth, locked onto mine. "Isn't that right, Eliza?" I forced a smile that felt like a grimace on my face. My cheeks ached with the effort. "Of course, Vivian. Though sometimes simple can be refreshing, especially for people who work in high-stress environments." A small dig at her assumption that caregiving wasn't real work. Trevor, Vivian's investment partner, cleared his throat loudly. "Speaking of refreshing approaches, the elderly care facility investment numbers we reviewed are looking exceptional. Eliza, I noticed those operational improvement suggestions you mentioned during the charity event. Actually, let's not bore everyone with business talk," Vivian cut in, waving her manicured hand dismissively. "Besides, I'm sure Eliza has enough on her plate managing her little— what is it called? Elder Daycare Center?" She paused, eyeing my barely touched plate of overpriced salmon, though perhaps not as well as one might hope, judging by how thin you're looking. Maya, my best friend and fellow nurse at Sunny Pines, shifted uncomfortably beside me. Under the table, she squeezed my hand. Our secret signal developed through years of dealing with difficult family members of patients. Her touch meant, "Breathe. Don't react. She's not worth it." "Actually," I said, my voice steady, despite my racing heart thumping so loudly I was sure everyone could hear it. "I've been quite busy developing a mobile healthcare application for seniors and their caregivers. It's moving beyond the planning stages now." "How quaint," Vivian responded with a practiced smile that never reached her eyes. "It's so important to have hobbies." Speaking of accomplished people, you remember Audrey, don't you? Trevor's mentee. She's doing remarkable things in architectural design now, specializing in healthcare spaces. She'll be attending the anniversary party. The way she emphasized Audrey's name while looking pointedly at Nathan made my stomach knot painfully. I'd met Audrey once at a previous event, young, sophisticated, with degrees from prestigious universities, and the kind of polished confidence that came from never having to question your place in the world. Exactly the kind of woman Vivian had always wanted for her architect son. "Audrey Palmer?" Nathan frowned, putting down his fork. I haven't seen her since that design conference last year. Didn't know she was back in town. Oh, she's grown into quite the accomplished woman. Vivian beamed with more warmth than she'd shown me in 7 years of marriage. Masters from Columbia, vacation home in Aspen, family connections in all the right architectural firms, of course. The kind of professional network that could really elevate your design career beyond your mother's projects. I set down my water glass carefully before my white-knuckled grip could shatter it. The party is to celebrate our marriage, Vivian. 7 years of partnership and growth together. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Yes, 7 long years, she mused, dabbing her lips with her cloth napkin. Time does have a way of clarifying one's priorities in life, doesn't it? Sometimes we need to reassess our choices. Maya cleared her throat loudly. Eliza, didn't you want to show me that eldercare design mock-up on your tablet? The one you were telling me about earlier? I grabbed the lifeline gratefully. Yes, actually. Would you all excuse us for a moment? It won't take long. We barely made it to Vivian's expensively furnished study before Maya spun around, her dark eyes flashing with indignation. She's planning something. Something big and absolutely terrible. I can smell it from a mile away, just like when Mrs. Henderson's family is about to dump her back at the facility without warning. I sank into the butter-soft leather armchair, my hands trembling so badly I had to clasp them together. The way she kept talking about Audrey, practically shoving her at Nathan, about reassessing choices and the future. It's so obvious. You need to tell Nathan about your healthcare app development and the acquisition plans, Maya insisted, pacing across the Persian rug. Now, before this party, before whatever Cruella de Vil is plotting. He deserves to know what his mother is trying to orchestrate. I shook my head, feeling the tension headache building behind my eyes. Not yet. The acquisition offer for Vivian's senior living properties isn't finalized. If word gets out too soon, she'll find a way to block it. You know how she is. She'd rather burn everything down than let me succeed at anything. Eliza, she's trying to replace you with some architectural princess who probably color coordinates her pencils and has never changed a bedpan in her life. Let her try. Maya stopped pacing to grip my shoulders. Your app is amazing. The investors know it. The healthcare community is buzzing about it. I stood up, smoothing down my simple dress that had cost me a month's worth of saving. Everything's already in motion. In exactly 4 weeks, Vivian Mitchell is going to learn what it feels like to be the one without power in this relationship. 7 years of her looking down on caregivers while profiting from elderly care facilities ends now. Maya's eyes widened, a mix of admiration and concern. You're really going through with it? Buying her flagship senior living center? You know what she said to me last Christmas party? That I should be grateful they let me marry Nathan at all. That some people just aren't equipped for certain professional circles, especially people who only take care of the elderly. I walked to the window, watching the neighborhood lights twinkling beyond the manicured garden. Well, I'm about to prove that frontline healthcare experience creates better leaders than her real estate investing ever did. Eliza, Nathan's voice carried from the hallway that familiar hesitant tone. Mother's asking for us to rejoin the table. I turned to Maya, my jaw set with determination. Time to go back to playing the dutiful daughter-in-law. For now. As we walked back toward the dining room, Vivian's voice drifted out, discussing seating arrangements with surprising animation. I caught the words head table and special announcement and Nathan's future. Let her plan her perfect party. Let her think she's finally found a way to push me out of her precious son's life. In 4 weeks, I wouldn't just crash her carefully orchestrated celebration. I'd own the very senior living facility she was most proud of developing. Literally. I just hoped Nathan would understand why I had to do it this way. Why 7 years of subtle humiliation, of being treated like a glorified maid rather than a healthcare professional, of carefully crafted exclusion from family business discussions had led me to this moment. Because one way or another, this anniversary would mark the end of Vivian Mitchell's reign over our lives and the beginning of my vision for truly compassionate elder care. At the law office. The paperwork looks solid, Walter said, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses as he spread documents across his worn oak desk in his modest downtown office. The difference between his practical workspace and Vivian's lavish offices couldn't be more striking. But Eliza, are you absolutely certain about this? The Mitchell family has trusted me as their attorney for over 20 years. This is significant. I leaned forward in my chair, my newly purchased blazer, the first professional splurge I'd allowed myself since starting my company, crinkling slightly against the faux leather armrests. That's exactly why I came to you, Walter. You know every shady business deal and ethical corner they've cut with their senior living properties. He shuffled uncomfortably, removing his glasses to clean them with a handkerchief, a nervous habit I'd noticed during our previous meetings. The acquisition is completely legitimate. Your healthcare technology company's offer for the Sunshine Valley Senior Living Center is more than fair given its current management issues. But the deception involved in not telling your husband or mother-in-law until it's complete. Deception? I pulled out my phone, scrolling through saved screenshots of emails and documents I'd been collecting for years. Like when Vivian tried to have Nathan sign over his inheritance rights without telling me 3 years ago. The same documents you refused to process because it was, as you put it at the time, ethically questionable and potentially illegal? Walter's face flushed crimson to the tips of his ears. That was different. The circumstances weren't comparable. Were they really so different? I slid the final contract across his cluttered desk, the heavyweight paper making a satisfying sound as it moved. Sign as witness, Walter. Or I'll find another attorney who understands what's really at stake here for elderly patients. Your choice. The office door swung open with a squeak of hinges that needed oiling, and Maya burst in, her practical nursing shoes making little sound on the worn carpet. Sorry I'm late. The traffic around the hospital was a nightmare, and Mrs. Goldstein needed her medication before I could leave. She paused, reading the tension in the room with the practiced eye of someone who deals with family conflicts daily. Did I miss the dramatic confrontation part? Perfect timing, I said, not taking my eyes off Walter. Our reluctant attorney was just about to sign the acquisition papers. Maya dropped into the weathered chair beside me, pulling out her tablet with the protective case covered in cartoon bandages, a gift from one of our pediatric volunteers. While Walter finishes up his moral crisis, you need to see these usage statistics. The healthcare app's testing numbers are even better than we projected. Your little side project didn't just succeed, Eliza. It's about to revolutionize how we deliver care to seniors. I allowed myself a small, satisfied smile. For 3 years, I'd been building my healthcare technology company in secret, starting with a modest inheritance from my grandmother who died in a poorly run nursing home. While Vivian thought I was taking professional development courses and attending healthcare seminars, I was actually meeting with medical investors and developing revolutionary patient care software built from my frontline experience. Walter's pen scratched reluctantly across the paper, each stroke seeming to physically pain him. There. It's done. He looked up at me, his expression a mixture of guilt and grudging admiration. The Mitchell family will know within days that someone's buying their flagship senior living center. Once this acquisition is complete, there's no turning back from the confrontation it will cause. Good. I gathered the papers, carefully sliding them into my battered briefcase, a reminder to myself of where I started. because I'm done being talked down to about elder care by people who've never changed an adult diaper. Maya waited until we were in the rickety elevator of the modest office building before letting out an excited squeal. I can't believe we actually pulled this off. From those late-night coding sessions at my kitchen table to this. She grabbed my hands, squeezing them tight. You're about to own Sunshine Valley, the most prestigious senior living center in 3 counties. We're not breaking out the Celebration sparkling cider yet, I cautioned, though I couldn't help the growing feeling of vindication spreading through my chest. First, we need to. The elevator doors slid open with a metallic groan, and I froze mid-sentence. Nathan stood in the small lobby, deep in conversation with Trevor, his mother's investment partner. Quick, Maya whispered urgently, her fingers digging into my arm. Act like we're discussing patient care protocols. Eliza? Nathan looked surprised, adjusting his designer glasses. What are you doing at Walter's office? Maya needed legal advice about her mother's estate planning. I lied smoothly, hating myself for the deception, but knowing it was necessary for just a little while longer. I came for moral support since she's been supporting me through all those late shifts at Sunny Pines. Trevor nodded sympathetically, his expensive suit making the modest law office look even shabbier. Difficult conversations. End-of-life planning. Speaking of difficult conversations, Nathan, we should finish discussing those investment restructuring changes your mother's suggesting for the senior living properties. My ears perked up instantly, and I felt Maya's warning squeeze on my arm. Investment restructuring? Nothing concrete, Nathan said quickly, his eyes not quite meeting mine. Just some modernization ideas for the properties. Vivian thinks it's time for less hands-on management approaches, Trevor finished, his careful phrasing not disguising the meaning. Though between us, I'm not sure about her timing. The resident satisfaction scores are higher than ever, particularly at Sunshine Valley, where most of your wife's suggestions were implemented. Maya tugged at my sleeve. We should really get going. That medication schedule won't reorganize itself. And we promised Director Wilson we'd have it done by tomorrow. As we hurried toward the exit, I heard Trevor say, "You know, your wife's understanding of elder care needs is remarkable. Those operational improvements she suggested last quarter have reduced falls by 30%. Maybe we should consider." His words faded as the heavy door swung shut behind us. Outside in the crisp autumn air, I finally let out the breath I'd been holding, watching it form a small cloud in front of my face. That was way too close, Maya said, checking over her shoulder to make sure we weren't followed. But did you hear that? They're planning major changes to the senior living centers right before our acquisition goes through. That absolutely cannot be a coincidence. I flagged down a passing taxi, the yellow vehicle pulling up to the curb with a squeal of brakes. No, it definitely isn't. Vivian's planning something big for that anniversary party, and now she's trying to restructure the very properties we're acquiring. I pulled out my phone, my fingers trembling slightly with a mixture of anger and determination. Call Walter. Tell him to expedite everything. I want the acquisition paperwork completed before that party. What about Nathan? Maya asked, her voice softer now. Are you ever going to tell him what his mother has been saying about healthcare workers behind your back? About the acquisition plans? I watched the suburban landscape blur past the taxi window, remembering the way Nathan had looked away at dinner every time his mother belittled my career. The way he always looked away rather than stand up to her. The mix of love and disappointment I felt was becoming increasingly difficult to separate. He'll know soon enough. They all will, I said, swallowing the lump in my throat. And if he doesn't understand, if he takes her side after everything, the possibility hit me like a physical blow. Then I'll have lost my husband, I said quietly, voicing my greatest fear. But I'll have saved countless seniors from substandard care. And maybe, just maybe, I'll have finally earned his respect as a healthcare professional. Maya squeezed my hand, her calloused palm against mine, a reminder of the real work we did every day. For what it's worth, and I know it's worth a lot, I think you're doing the right thing. Sometimes the only way to fix a broken eldercare system is to completely rebuild it from the ground up. My phone buzzed with an incoming message. Vivian, sending detailed instructions about appropriate attire for the anniversary party. Another buzz followed immediately. Walter confirming the acquisition paperwork was being expedited. 2 weeks until the purchase would be finalized. 3 weeks until the party. After 7 years of smiling through subtle jabs about just being a caregiver and calculated exclusion from business discussions about the very facilities where I worked, my patience and strategic planning were finally about to pay off. I just hoped the cost to my marriage wouldn't be too high. At Mitchell Properties headquarters. The Mitchell Properties headquarters buzzed with unusual energy as decorators transformed the top floor conference space for tomorrow's pre-party investment meeting. I lingered near the service elevator, the entrance I was most familiar with, having been subtly directed there at previous company events, watching Vivian direct workers with military precision. The floral arrangements go along that wall. No, not those basic carnations. She snapped at a nervous-looking florist who was clearly used to working with more reasonable clients. The imported peonies are for tomorrow's investor meeting. The white roses are for next week's anniversary celebration. Everything okay? You look like you're mentally redesigning the entire room. Trevor appeared beside me, making me jump slightly. His voice was friendly, but his eyes were calculating as always. Just admiring Vivian's meticulous attention to detail, I chuckled, trying to sound casual while my heart pounded against my ribs. That's certainly one diplomatic way to describe it. He lowered his voice. Listen, Eliza, got a minute? There's something I've been wanting to discuss with you about the elder care division. My pulse quickened as I followed him to his corner office, with its view of the suburban office park. Had he discovered something about our acquisition plans? The paperwork was nearly complete, but one wrong move now could destroy everything we worked for. Close the door, he said, settling behind his modern glass desk. I'm worried about Vivian's recent decisions regarding the senior living properties. I blinked in genuine surprise. Worried? She's been making bizarre business moves lately, calling emergency investor meetings, suggesting radical management restructuring across all the facilities. He rubbed his temples, looking genuinely concerned. This morning, she asked me to transfer ownership of Sunshine Valley to a family trust she's creating. She won't explain why. Something vague about securing the family's future, but the timing feels suspicious. Those properties are performing better than ever, thanks in large part to those care protocols you developed for the staff. I maintained a carefully neutral expression, my years of keeping calm during patient emergencies serving me well. Have you discussed these facility changes with Nathan? Tried to, multiple times. But you know how he gets when his mother's involved in business matters. Hesitant, conflicted. Trevor leaned forward, lowering his voice conspiratorially. Actually, that's partly why I wanted to speak with you privately. How would you feel about joining our healthcare advisory committee? Officially, with compensation and voting rights? A sharp knock interrupted before I could recover from my surprise. Nathan poked his head in, his architect's portfolio tucked under one arm. Mother's looking for you, Trevor. Something about the proper positioning of the event tables and investment presentations. God save me from micromanagement, Trevor muttered, rising from his chair with a resigned sigh. Think about my offer, Eliza. We desperately need someone with your frontline healthcare perspective in these discussions. As he left, Nathan studied my face with unusual intensity. What was that about? You two seemed deep in conversation. Nothing critical, I said quickly, my mind racing. Just anniversary party details and some questions about elder care practices. You've been different lately, he said softly, stepping fully into the office and closing the door behind him. Working late, always on your phone, distracted during our conversations. Is everything okay between us? For one overwhelming moment, I wanted to tell him everything. About the healthcare app I'd developed, the acquisition of his mother's prized facility, her constant belittling of my profession behind his back. The words pressed against my lips, desperate to escape. But then Vivian's sharp voice carried down the hallway, cutting through my moment of weakness. Nathan, there you are. Audrey just arrived with her portfolio. Come see her healthcare facility designs. His face brightened immediately. Audrey's here already? I didn't know she was presenting at the investors' meeting. My stomach clenched painfully, a mixture of jealousy and disappointment souring my mouth. Go ahead. Don't keep your mother and her protégé waiting. It sounds important. Once alone, I slipped into the empty conference room next door, needing a moment to collect myself. Through the surprisingly thin wall, voices carried clearly from the adjacent event space being decorated. The rising star returns. Vivian's voice dripped with a warmth and enthusiasm she'd never once directed toward me in 7 years. Doesn't Audrey look absolutely stunning in that architect's power suit, Nathan? So professional. Columbia's master's program certainly agrees with her. The healthcare facility renderings are impressive. You look great too, Nathan. Audrey's voice replied, polished and confident. It's been too long since we collaborated on a project. I'll be here through next week's anniversary celebration at least. Audrey continued. Vivian has exciting plans for announcing some new developments. Yes, Vivian said, her voice dropping slightly but still audible. Very significant plans. Trevor, darling, there you are. We need to discuss those property transfers immediately. The paperwork must be ready before next week. Their voices moved away down the hall, but I remained frozen, my mind racing. Property transfers? Audrey's extended stay. The way Vivian emphasized significant plans. My phone vibrated in my pocket. A text from Maya. Walter says acquisition paperwork ready. We're ahead of schedule. Are you absolutely certain about this? Another conversation drifted through the wall, Trevor speaking in hushed but clearly agitated tones. I don't like this rushed approach, Walter. These secretive changes, the private meetings without the full investment team. Something feels ethically questionable. Mrs. Mitchell is within her legal rights as majority stakeholder, Walter responded, sounding exhausted and conflicted. Though perhaps the timing could be considered unfortunate given the current facility performance. Unfortunate. Sunshine Valley is achieving record resident satisfaction scores, and she's focused on some mysterious reconfiguration to be announced at a party of all places. I'd heard more than enough. Stepping into the hallway with newfound determination, I nearly collided with Audrey Palmer herself. Eliza, she smiled with seemingly genuine warmth, extending her perfectly manicured hand. I was hoping I'd run into you today. Vivian has told me so much about your work at the care facility. Has she really? I matched her smile with practiced professionalism, the same expression I used with difficult family members of patients. Funny, she's mentioned almost nothing about your architectural practice to me, despite my husband being in the same field. Oh, you'll learn all about our professional history soon enough. She touched my arm with casual familiarity. I hope we can collaborate effectively. After all, we're both deeply invested in this family's future healthcare projects. Before I could form a suitably cutting response, my phone buzzed insistently. The screen showed, Maya. Emergency. Call immediately. Excuse me, I said, already backing away toward the elevator. I need to take this possible patient situation. In the blessed privacy of the elevator, I immediately called Maya. "They're moving up the investor meeting," she said without preamble, her voice tense with urgency. "To tomorrow morning." Walter just called in a panic. "What? That's 2 weeks ahead of schedule." My mind raced with implications. Something about voting on major property restructuring before the anniversary party. "Eliza, if they reorganize the management of Sunshine Valley before our acquisition is complete, they can't. We won't let them." I stabbed the lobby button repeatedly, as if that would speed the elevator's descent. "Call Walter. Tell him we're executing the purchase agreement tonight. I don't care what strings he has to pull or how many legal fees it costs." "Are you absolutely sure?" "Once we file those papers, there's no turning back. Your relationship with Nathan's family will never be the same." Through the closing elevator doors, I caught one final glimpse of Nathan and Audrey bent over architectural drawings, their heads close together, Vivian watching them with unmistakable satisfaction in her predatory smile. "I'm more than sure," I said, my voice hardening with resolve. "It's time to end this charade and show them what real elder care leadership looks like." The next morning, the emergency investor meeting felt like a powder keg waiting for a spark. I sat in my usual observer's chair in the corner, the spot Vivian had once designated as appropriate for non-business family, watching as investors and board members filed into the room. Vivian held court at the head of the massive oak table, Audrey conspicuously placed at her right hand, portfolio open between them. "Before we begin today's discussion," Vivian announced with practiced authority, "I'd like to properly introduce Audrey Palmer. She'll be joining us as an architectural consultant for our upcoming senior living facility renovations and management transitions." Trevor shifted uncomfortably in his chair, glancing between his legal notepad and me. "Transitions that haven't been approved by the full investment committee yet. Mere procedural formalities." Vivian waved her hand dismissively, diamond bracelet catching the light. "Now, regarding the property transfers we discussed." The boardroom door burst open dramatically. Walter hurried in, clutching a stack of legal documents, his face flushed with exertion and what appeared to be genuine anxiety. "I apologize profusely for the interruption, but there is an urgent matter that cannot wait." "It absolutely can wait," Vivian cut him off sharply. "We have important." "It cannot wait another minute," Walter insisted, his voice uncharacteristically firm. Sunshine Valley Senior Living Center has received a binding acquisition offer that has already been accepted by the majority stakeholders. The room erupted in confused murmurs and exclamations. Nathan's head snapped up from the architectural drawings he'd been reviewing, his expression stunned. "What? That's completely impossible." Vivian spat, her carefully maintained composure cracking. "Who would dare make such a move without consulting me first?" "A healthcare technology consortium," Walter continued, methodically distributing documents around the table despite Vivian's glare. "They've already secured legally binding support from the majority of investors. The deal is, for all practical purposes, completed." I watched the color drain from Vivian's face as she scanned the papers, her manicured fingers trembling slightly. This is a complete takeover of our flagship property," Trevor finished, whistling low in surprise. "And at these numbers, well, it's actually an extremely generous offer given the current healthcare market." "But the timing," Audrey interjected, her professional mask slipping to reveal obvious alarm. "Surely we can delay this transaction." "I'm afraid that's not possible," Walter stated firmly. The final paperwork was legally executed and filed last night. All that remains is the formal operational transition announcement. Nathan hadn't moved a muscle, staring at the acquisition documents in front of him as if they were written in a foreign language. "Mother," his voice cracked with confusion, "what exactly is happening here?" "Nothing of consequence." Vivian snapped, her knuckles white around her designer pen. This is clearly a hostile takeover attempt that we'll squash immediately. Audrey, call your father's legal team. Actually, I stood up, my heart hammering in my chest, but my voice steady and clear. This isn't hostile at all. The majority of investors voted quite enthusiastically in favor. Isn't that right, Walter? The room fell utterly silent. Every head turned toward me, expressions ranging from confusion to dawning realization. Eliza, Nathan's voice was barely above a whisper. What do you know about this? She knows absolutely nothing about business matters, Vivian snarled, half rising from her chair. She knows, I finished with quiet determination, that I've built a healthcare technology company right under your nose. While you were busy planning networking events and arranging convenient professional matches for your son, I was creating something that will actually improve elder care in this community. Audrey's perfectly manicured hand crumpled the acquisition papers reflexively. You must be bluffing. A caregiver doesn't have the business acumen for something like this. I pulled out my tablet, connecting it to the presentation system with practiced ease. The Elder Connect app portfolio appeared on the boardroom screen, complete with testimonials from medical professionals. 3 years of development, 5 patented care protocols, over 50 healthcare professionals on staff. And as of precisely 11:42 last night, majority ownership of Sunshine Valley Senior Living Center. No, Vivian whispered, her face ashen as the implications sank in. No. No, this isn't happening. Yes, I turned to face her directly, drawing strength from years of confronting difficult family members who mistreated nursing staff. Did you honestly believe I'd just stand by silently while you tried to replace me? While you planned to announce Nathan's exciting new professional partnership with Audrey at our anniversary celebration? Nathan stood so quickly his chair toppled backward with a loud crash. What? Mother, what is she talking about? Audrey, to her credit, looked genuinely uncomfortable, her polished facade cracking slightly. Nathan, I can explain the collaboration proposal. Don't waste your breath. I cut in firmly. The documents tell the complete story. Your father's legal involvement, the trust fund Vivian was establishing to fund your joint venture, the planned announcement scheduled for our anniversary party. Mother, Nathan's voice was deadly quiet, a tone I'd never heard from him before. Is this actually true? Vivian's carefully maintained composure finally shattered completely. I was trying to protect your career, to secure your professional future with someone from the right background, someone who understands the business world. By ambushing me at my anniversary celebration, he turned to Audrey, disbelief written across his face. And you willingly participated in this scheme? It wasn't presented to me that way, Audrey protested, her professional demeanor completely abandoned. Vivian said your marriage was struggling, that you wanted a way out and back into serious architecture. What I want, Nathan interrupted, his voice shaking with barely controlled emotion, has never actually mattered to any of you, has it? Not once have you asked me. Trevor cleared his throat awkwardly. Perhaps we should refocus on the business acquisition details at hand. Yes, I said with newfound confidence. As the new majority stakeholder of Sunshine Valley, I'm initiating immediate management changes. Our first priority is implementing evidence-based care protocols across all departments. You absolutely cannot do this, Vivian hissed, eyes flashing with fury. You're just a nurse's aide. I already have done it, I said calmly, distributing detailed transition documents around the table. You'll find the severance packages for current management extremely generous, well above industry standard. Audrey, I assume you can find your own way out of this meeting. Nathan, Vivian pleaded desperately. You have to stop her. This is your family legacy. But Nathan was staring at me with an expression of stunned disbelief. as if seeing me clearly for the first time in our marriage. All this time, you were building a healthcare company? Creating an elder care app? Yes. And you never told me anything about it? Because, because I needed to prove something fundamental. I met his gaze steadily. To your family. To you. And most importantly, to myself, that my healthcare experience has value beyond what your mother ever recognized. The room fell completely silent. 7 years of marriage hung in the balance of this moment. Finally, Nathan's expression softened into something like admiration, and he smiled. Well, I guess that makes you my professional superior now. Actually, I couldn't help smiling back, feeling the weight of years lifting from my shoulders. I'm everyone's boss now. And I intend to create the best elder care facility in the state. Vivian slammed her manicured hands on the polished table. This isn't remotely over. My lawyers will. Oh, but it absolutely is finished. I gathered my materials with deliberate calm. Meeting adjourned. And Vivian? Don't trouble yourself about the anniversary party arrangements. I'll handle everything from here on out. As I walked out with my head held high, I heard Trevor mutter to another investor, "Now that's what I call a complete management revolution." For the first time in 7 years of marriage, I felt truly and completely valued for my professional expertise. At their home, later that day, the silence in our modest suburban home was oppressive. Nathan hadn't spoken a single word during the tense drive from his mother's office complex, and now he stood by the living room window, drink in hand, watching the neighborhood children playing in the distance. "Please say something." I finally broke the heavy silence, unable to bear the uncertainty any longer. "Anything at all." He turned slowly, his expression still unreadable behind his designer glasses. 3 years. You spent 3 entire years building a healthcare company in complete secrecy. I wanted to tell you so many times. I started explaining, my voice catching, but he raised his hand to stop me. "No, please let me finish." He set down his barely touched drink carefully. 3 years of watching my mother systematically belittle your career choices. Of me saying absolutely nothing in your defense. Of course you couldn't possibly tell me about your plans. I hadn't expected this response at all. "You're not angry with me for the secrecy?" "Angry?" He laughed, but it was a hollow sound entirely devoid of humor. "I'm absolutely furious. At my mother, at myself, at this entire twisted situation." He ran both hands through his hair in frustration. "But at you? How can I possibly be angry when you've done exactly what I should have had the courage to do years ago? Stand up to her impossible expectations." The doorbell chimed loudly, interrupting the moment. Maya burst in before I could even reach the door, excitement radiating from her. "Your phones must be absolutely exploding," she exclaimed breathlessly, waving her tablet excitedly. "The healthcare industry news sites are going crazy. Unknown eldercare app developer acquires premium senior living facility. Caregiver turned CEO disrupts traditional senior care model. You're trending on all the professional platforms." "Maya," Nathan said quietly but firmly, "could we possibly have a few moments alone?" "Oh, right, of course." She backed awkwardly toward the door. "But Eliza, call me later without fail. Vivian's already making strategic counterattacks." After she departed, Nathan poured another drink, this time actually taking a sip. "Making counterattacks? Can you explain what that means exactly?" "She's already contacted 3 different elder law specialists," I admitted, sinking onto our well-worn couch, "attempting to challenge the acquisition on technical grounds. But it won't succeed. Walter assured me everything is completely legal and binding." "That's not what concerns me most." He sat beside me, our shoulders almost touching. "What specific moves is she making against us personally?" "Against you?" My phone buzzed with an incoming message. A text from Walter, Vivian attempting to freeze family trust disbursements. Also trying to cancel country club venue for anniversary event. She's trying to shut me out of our own anniversary celebration. I showed him the message with a bitter laugh, just like she's always done with family events. Nathan's jaw tightened visibly. The party is still happening though, right? It absolutely must. Everyone who matters in the elder care industry will be attending. The perfect opportunity to announce the new evidence-based approach to senior living. And make your mother acknowledge my professional contributions. I met his troubled gaze directly. Would that be so terribly wrong? After what she was planning to do to our marriage. He was quiet for a long, thoughtful moment. You know what hurts the most deeply? Not your secret company, not the facility takeover. It's that I never saw any of it happening right in front of me. My mother's manipulation, your incredible potential, and determination. I was completely blind to it all. You saw what you wanted to see, I said softly, taking his hand. We all do that sometimes. The doorbell rang again. This time, it was Trevor who stood on our doorstep. Sorry to intrude on your evening. He looked between us with genuine awkwardness. But Eliza, we urgently need to discuss transition strategy. The investment committee is deeply divided. Some are demanding emergency meetings, while others are threatening to withdraw completely. Let them leave if they want, I said with newfound confidence. We'll rebuild the committee with healthcare professionals who share our patient-centered vision. Our vision? Trevor raised an eyebrow in surprise. Unless you're planning to force me out too? His serious expression melted into an unexpected grin. Are you kidding? This is the most exciting development in senior care I've seen in 15 years. I'm completely committed to this new direction. Excellent. I reached for my laptop. Because I need your expertise planning the anniversary event now. Eliza, Nathan interrupted, his expression suddenly serious, before we move forward. Are you absolutely certain about this path? Once we make this public announcement, there's no turning back. No reconciliation with my mother. I touched his arm gently, feeling both the familiar connection and a new kind of strength between us. Nathan, your mother was literally planning to announce your exciting new professional partnership with Audrey at our anniversary party, a thinly veiled attempt to replace me with someone she considers more suitable. I think we're well beyond any meaningful reconciliation. Trevor choked on his drink, sputtering slightly. She was planning to do what exactly? Ask Audrey, I said dryly, unable to keep the edge from my voice. Though she might be busy updating her professional portfolio and reconnecting with her own ethical compass right about now. My phone buzzed with an incoming notification. Maya sending security camera footage from the Mitchell Properties office. Vivian was hastily clearing out her personal items, Audrey helping her package expensive art pieces and files. They're certainly not accepting defeat gracefully, Trevor observed, leaning over to glimpse the footage. Good, I closed my laptop with a definitive click. Because neither am I. Seniors deserve better care than what they've been providing. Nathan wrapped a supportive arm around my waist, the gesture surprising me after years of his careful neutrality. Then let's transform this anniversary into something meaningful. Make it a celebration that genuinely changes elder care for the better. You're really supporting me in this? I searched his face, looking for any hesitation or resentment. I should have been standing firmly beside you from the very beginning. He kissed my forehead tenderly. Better embarrassingly late than never showing up at all. Trevor cleared his throat awkwardly. As genuinely touching as this marital reconciliation is, we have an immediate business crisis demanding attention. The healthcare press is requesting statements. Investors are anxiously calling, and senior care advocacy groups want to know your plans. Let them wonder a little longer, I said confidently. By this time next week, They'll understand exactly why this management change was not just necessary, but overdue for quality patient care. My phone lit up with another incoming message. Vivian, you have absolutely no idea what kind of battle you've just initiated. I showed the message to Nathan, who took the phone and typed a response without hesitation. Actually, Mother, for the first time in our professional lives, we know precisely what we're doing and why it matters. As Trevor began outlining potential communication strategies for the transition, I watched my husband with new eyes, truly seeing him perhaps for the first time in our marriage. He stood straighter, seeming unburdened by his mother's suffocating expectations. Sometimes you have to completely dismantle a broken system to build something better in its place. I just hoped we were creating something stronger and more compassionate than what we'd torn down. But first, we had a meaningful anniversary celebration to plan. Night of the anniversary party. What do you mean my name isn't on the approved guest list? I stared in disbelief at the security guard blocking the entrance to the Oak Ridge Country Club's grand ballroom. The anniversary celebration was scheduled to begin in less than 45 minutes, and healthcare industry leaders were already arriving in formal attire. I'm very sorry, ma'am. The guard consulted his tablet again with visible discomfort. But Mrs. Vivian specifically updated the access protocol this morning. You've been removed from all entry permissions. Maya grabbed my arm supportively, her outrage evident. She can't possibly do this. You literally own the senior living facility being celebrated tonight. The venue rental contract is still under her name. I realized with growing frustration, watching through the glass doors, as Vivian confidently directed catering staff inside the elegant space. She caught sight of me standing outside, smiled with cold satisfaction, and gave a small, mocking wave. My phone vibrated with an incoming text. Nathan, stuck in terrible traffic. Is Mother causing problems already? Your mother has locked me out of our own anniversary celebration. I texted back rapidly. Of all the petty, vindictive, unprofessional. Maya stopped mid-sentence as Audrey Palmer walked confidently past us through the entrance doors, not even attempting to hide her smug expression in an elegant designer dress. That's absolutely it. I pulled out my phone with newfound determination. Trevor, we need to implement that contingency plan. Immediately. 15 minutes later, Trevor arrived with Walter reluctantly in tow, both looking distinctly harried after what must have been a frantically rushed journey. The venue management won't budge on their position, Trevor reported with frustration. Vivian has threatened legal action against them if they allow you entry without her explicit approval, which she technically can enforce, Walter added apologetically. The contract language. I don't care about legal technicalities right now. I cut him off firmly. This is my anniversary celebration and my facility announcement. I've worked too hard to let her win with these playground tactics. A sudden commotion at the entrance drew everyone's attention. Nathan had arrived, and his expression conveyed barely controlled fury as he strode toward us. Where is she? He stormed past the stammering security guard, who wisely chose not to attempt stopping him. Mother! I followed quickly in his wake, before anyone could object, Maya and Trevor close behind as we entered the forbidden ballroom. The space was undeniably stunning. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over elegant flower arrangements and healthcare-themed decorations. Exactly as Vivian had envisioned it. She now stood at the center of the room, champagne flute in hand, Audrey positioned strategically at her side. Nathan, darling, Vivian called out with practiced warmth. You've arrived just in time. We were about to begin the special presentation. Begin what exactly? He demanded, his voice carrying across the now quieting room. Begin humiliating my wife and undermining our marriage. Guests turned to watch the unfolding drama, several discreetly recording with their phones. This was precisely the kind of public scene Vivian wanted. something scandalous to discredit me professionally. I'm simply protecting our family's healthcare investments, Vivian replied smoothly. After that completely unprofessional hostile takeover. Hostile? I laughed, drawing the attention of the entire room. Like secretly planning to announce my husband's new professional partnership at our anniversary celebration? Audible gasps rippled through the assembled healthcare professionals. Audrey took an instinctive step backward, but Vivian maintained her ground with practiced poise. Security, she called sharply. This woman is trespassing at a private professional event. Two security personnel approached hesitantly, but Trevor stepped forward confidently. Actually, as acting transition director for Sunshine Valley Senior Living, I can officially confirm that Mrs. Eliza Mitchell is precisely where she belongs this evening. Acting director. Vivian's voice rose noticeably. You're actually supporting her in this? I'm supporting evidence-based elder care and staff empowerment, Trevor answered firmly. Perhaps you might consider trying that approach sometime. The security guards hesitated visibly, looking between the opposing parties with obvious discomfort. Oh, for heaven's sake, Vivian snapped impatiently. Fine. Stay and create this embarrassing spectacle. But this remains my professional event, and I have an important announcement to make. She turned to address the assembled guests, but Nathan swiftly took the microphone from its stand first. Yes, Mother, let's make some honest announcements tonight, he said, his voice steady and clear through the sound system. Let's tell everyone exactly how you attempted to manipulate my marriage, how you planned this elaborate ambush tonight, how you've spent 7 years systematically undermining and dismissing the best healthcare innovator this family has ever been fortunate enough to welcome. The best healthcare innovator? Vivian scoffed derisively. She's stolen our premier senior living facility. No, I stepped forward confidently. I've created something far better than your real estate investment approach to elder care. I've developed a system that will genuinely improve quality of life for seniors and working conditions for caregivers. And I accomplished this while you were too preoccupied planning my replacement to notice what was happening in your own facilities. Meyer appeared with my tablet, quickly connecting it to the ballroom's presentation system. The Elder Connect app portfolio and care protocols appeared on the massive screens. The innovation awards, the research validation, the testimonials from actual caregivers and patients. Ladies and gentlemen of the healthcare community, I addressed the captivated audience. Welcome to the future of senior care at Sunshine Valley. A future built on evidence-based practice, not profit margins. On caregiver empowerment, not exploitation. Phones flashed as healthcare journalists in attendance began taking extensive notes. This wasn't the embarrassing scandal Vivian had orchestrated. It was something far more powerful, a genuine revolution in elder care. You can't do this, Vivian whispered, but her voice trembled with uncertainty. I already have. I took Nathan's hand firmly in mine. Happy anniversary to us. And Vivian? You might want to check your email. The management transition plan is waiting for your review, though no longer your approval. Audrey slipped away through the crowd as Vivian stood frozen, her perfectly planned event crumbling around her. Well, Trevor raised his glass with genuine enthusiasm. I believe this calls for a toast. To the new director of Sunshine Valley Senior Living. And to evidence-based elder care finally taking precedence over profit margins. The healthcare professionals raised their glasses, the mood shifting remarkably from scandal to professional excitement. Nathan pulled me close, whispering against my hair, I love you. And I'm incredibly proud of what you've accomplished. Vivian's face had transformed from angry red to pale shock. She clutched her designer handbag and headed toward the exit, pausing only to hiss, this travesty is far from over. Actually, Mother, Nathan called after her with newfound confidence. For once in this family, it truly is. As the celebration continued with renewed energy and purpose around us, Maya squeezed my hand supportively. Worth getting locked out for? I watched Vivian's rigid back retreating through the crowd. 7 years of professional dismissal and personal belittlement finally lifting from my shoulders. Worth every difficult moment. Several weeks later, my phone buzzed insistently. Vivian's number displayed on the screen. I declined the call without hesitation. The healthcare press is waiting in the lobby, Maya reminded me, consulting her tablet. Ready to face their questions about the new care protocols? I looked around what was now my office at Sunshine Valley, with its practical furniture and walls covered with resident artwork rather than expensive paintings. Actually, I said thoughtfully, I have a better approach in mind. Trevor, can you arrange a facility-wide gathering? All staff levels, from administrators to housekeeping. It's time they heard our vision directly from someone who's worked alongside them. And Vivian? Maya asked with understandable caution. She can watch the healthcare news coverage, like everyone else in the industry. For the first time in 7 years of our marriage, I genuinely didn't care what Vivian Mitchell thought of me or my work. I had an elder care facility to transform, a staff culture to rebuild, and a future to create for vulnerable seniors. This was just the beginning of something truly meaningful. 3 months later, the crisp autumn breeze carried the scent of fresh coffee from the new staff break area as I crossed the renovated garden courtyard of Sunshine Valley. Caregivers and residents sat together on accessible benches, sharing conversations and enjoying the seasonal plantings. Exactly as I had envisioned in my original proposal. Director Mitchell, a young nursing assistant, waved enthusiastically. The new staffing ratios have completely changed my ability to provide care. I actually have time to sit and talk with Mrs. Abernathy during meals now. I smiled, remembering Vivian's dismissive words from years earlier. Sentiment has absolutely no place in healthcare business models. Inside the bright main entrance, Maya met me at the elevator. Ready for this unusual meeting? Is anyone ever truly prepared to face their mother-in-law in mediation? The elevator doors opened to reveal Trevor and Audrey, both carrying folders of documentation. She's already in the conference room, Audrey reported professionally, her earlier arrogance replaced with cautious respect. With 3 elder law specialists and a healthcare PR consultant. Of course she is. I straightened my practical blazer. Let's finally resolve this situation. The community meeting room buzzed with whispered conversations as we entered. I spotted Nathan already seated near the front, reviewing architectural plans for the facility expansion. He stood when he saw me, straightening his tie, the one I'd given him for our first anniversary, now worn with genuine pride. Mother's requesting one final private conversation, he said quietly, before the mediator begins the formal proceedings. I nodded, surprisingly calm. Where is she waiting? Family consultation room B. She's alone in there. Vivian sat by herself at the small table, looking noticeably diminished without her usual entourage of supporters. She'd visibly aged during these past months of legal battles, new lines of stress evident around her eyes. Come to celebrate your victory? She asked, though the usual bite was missing from her tone. No. I sat across from her, meeting her gaze directly. I've come to finally end this counterproductive conflict. And this? She laughed without humor. You've stolen my premier senior living property, turned my son against me, destroyed my professional legacy. I've built something substantially better than your previous approach, I interrupted calmly. Have you actually reviewed the quarterly patient outcome reports? Falls have decreased by 30%. Medication errors are down by half. Staff retention has doubled. Family satisfaction ratings, statistics, and metrics. She spat dismissively. That's your entire focus. Actually, I pulled out my tablet, showing her our facility's social media account with resident stories. I care deeply about people like Mr. Garcia, who's finally reconnected with his grandchildren through our technology program. Or Mrs. Williams, whose dementia symptoms have stabilized through our innovative music therapy initiative. Or, enough, she slammed her palm against the table. What exactly do you want from me? For you to recognize what I've always seen clearly, that this facility could be so much more than just a real estate investment. It could transform lives, both for residents and staff. And your son, was he just another asset in your portfolio? Mother, Nathan spoke firmly from the doorway. I hadn't heard him enter. You know that's not true. Do I? Her voice cracked with unexpected emotion. I don't seem to know anything with certainty anymore. I reached into my briefcase, pulling out a document I'd prepared weeks ago but hadn't been ready to offer. Yes, you do know some things for certain. You know this continued legal battle is pointless and damaging to everyone. You know we're providing excellent care. And you know I'm offering you a meaningful choice. She stared at the paper with suspicious confusion. What exactly is this proposal? A senior living design consultant position. Advisory capacity only. No administrative authority. But your experience with facility development, your industry connections, they could genuinely benefit our expansion plans. If you're willing to work with us constructively, instead of against us, why would you possibly offer me anything at this point? Because unlike your approach, I don't believe in destroying potential contributions to advance my own agenda. I stood, gathering my materials. Your choice is clear, Vivian. Continue fighting and damage your professional reputation permanently, or help us build something better than either of us originally imagined. The silence stretched uncomfortably. Finally, she picked up the document, reading each clause with careful attention. The memory care garden, she said suddenly, surprising me. The one you're planning for the north courtyard. It needs better security features while maintaining a non-institutional appearance. I know. I smiled slightly, recognizing the value in her observation. That's precisely the kind of insight our design team could benefit from. She looked at Nathan, then back at me. Slowly, deliberately, she reached for her pen. If I agree to sign this, she said, her voice carefully measured, I want one specific condition in return. Name it. Monthly family dinners. With my son. And my daughter-in-law. Nathan squeezed my hand supportively. After a moment's consideration, I nodded. Agreed. Outside, reporters called questions as we emerged together from the meeting room. Audrey professionally addressed them. All parties have reached a mutually beneficial agreement. No additional comments at this time. Back at Sunshine Valley, Maya was waiting with sparkling cider for a modest celebration. To successful new beginnings, she proposed, raising her glass. To family, Nathan corrected gently, wrapping his arm around my shoulders. Both the ones we're born into, and the ones we intentionally build together. My phone buzzed with an incoming message. Trevor, memory care garden security plans ready for review. Vivian's already provided detailed recommendations. Do you honestly think this arrangement will work long-term? Maya asked quietly when Nathan stepped away to greet a resident. I watched through my office window as Vivian engaged with our design team in the conference room, gesturing animatedly about camera placement and resident safety. 7 years of conflict, ending not with destruction or humiliation, but with unexpected possibility. It has to work, I said with quiet determination. Because some things genuinely matter more than winning professional battles. Like improving elder care. Like demonstrating that success doesn't have to come at the expense of others, Nathan added, rejoining our conversation. I turned to face my husband with newfound appreciation. Like showing that sometimes the best professional response isn't retaliation at all. It's creating something so fundamentally valuable that even your critics eventually want to contribute to it. Speaking of valuable contributions, Maya grinned, glancing toward the conference room. Wait until you see the memory care activity space designs. Your mother-in-law actually proposed some remarkably innovative features. I laughed with genuine amusement. Of course she did. She's family, after all. And for the first time in our marriage, those words felt authentically true rather than an obligation.